Despite government reassurances their reactors are safe, a Japanese court blocks a power company from restarting them. China releases 5 activists, but threatens to punish others. Plus, a Japanese journalist gets to go home. These stories are coming up next. This is the Asia Brief. Good morning, everyone. I'm Steve Miller, your host. Thank you so much for joining me on this Wednesday, April 14th, 2015. Prior to the great earthquake in Japan on March 11th, 2011, nearly 1/3 of its power came from nuclear energy. However, in the disaster that followed at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station, the government ordered a shutdown of all systems as new safety measures were developed. Relying on more traditional methods of power has been somewhat of a financial burden in Japan, trying to make up for the loss of power generated from nuclear reactors. Regulators had approved the Kansai Electric Power Company to restart the number 3 and number 4 reactors at a plant in the western province of Fukui. But residents challenged the decision, claiming new safety standards weren't sufficient to prevent further disasters. A court agreed and issued an injunction, preventing the power company from restarting the reactors. Kansai Electric Power said it would appeal the ruling, but getting it overturned may take months or even years. Honestly, this is something the Kansai Electric Power Company should have been able to avoid. The public in Japan has grown largely anti-nuclear since the disaster in Fukushima. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that any attempt to restart reactors without the majority of public support is doomed to fail. The court in its ruling said the regulator standards lack rationality. See, this is what I'm talking about. If you want to quell concern, bring in respected outside experts and address every single complaint. Address every concern. Then you can get the public behind the program. Sadly, Japan mismanaged the handling of the Fukushima plant to the point that safety regulations are only part of the problem. The biggest hurdle to overcome in getting these reactors started once more will be regaining the trust of the public. The United States, as well as others, called on China to release 5 Chinese activists detained in March around the time of International Women's Day. Tuesday, they actually bowed to pressure and did so. But the lingering question is why? Secretary of State John Kerry said in a statement released last Friday that the women had organized a peaceful campaign to help end sexual harassment and promote equal rights for women. He said that China should support them, not silence them, and their release should be immediate and unconditional. On Tuesday, China did release the women, but chastised an NGO that lobbied on their behalf. Yirenping, an anti-discrimination NGO, has defended the rights of people with HIV, hepatitis B, women, and people with disabilities. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Hong Li said, for the organization they are affiliated with, Beijing Yirenping Center, because this organization is suspected of violating the law, it will face punishment. No further information was provided, making it unclear what or if any punishment will be doled out and to whom. Wang Zhen, a researcher and scholar, said this is really about authorities wanting to destroy Yirenping. Quote, the authorities probably don't want to make too big a splash by arresting the head of Yirenping, so they detained these women to send the message. They succeeded in terrifying Yirenping. Once these young feminists were detained, everyone working at Yirenping knew this was about Yirenping. End quote. Given as much bad press China has received over the years regarding its legal system, going after an NGO that helps women, those with disabilities, and people with HIV will only serve to bring about more scrutiny and condemnation. South Korea has lifted a travel ban that's been in place on Tatsuya Kato, the former bureau chief of the Japanese Senkai Shimbun newspaper. Kato is being sued for defamation in Seoul for an article he wrote questioning the whereabouts of President Park Geun-hye during the sinking of the Sewol ferry 1 year ago. Remember that in South Korea, individuals can be found guilty of defamation even if the statements themselves are true. The determining factor is whether or not the statements were in the interest of the general public. Journalists and rights groups have criticized the court proceedings as an attack on the press. The lifting of the travel ban was said to be based on humanitarian considerations because his mother is ailing and he has been apart from his family in Japan for 8 months. The prosecution has concluded their arguments in the case, which may have also factored in this decision. Kato said he has no immediate plans to go back to Japan and will continue to attend his trial. Well, my friends, those are today's stories, and I hope you'll take a moment to leave your thoughts in the comments on Facebook and Twitter. To keep up with more news from the region, please follow Asian News Weekly on Facebook or Twitter. You can also send an email to the show with your questions, your comments, and your feedback. That email address is podcast@asiannewsweekly.net. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with your friends, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. It's absolutely free and easy to do. You can do it on our website, asiannewsweekly.net, or in your favorite podcast application. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Steve Miller, reminding you to be true to yourself and to always be awesome.